What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Danny, here with Shane and Josh. Today, we're going to be talking about our top 10 fantasy football running back rankings for the upcoming NFL season. You guys excited?
Ecstatic. Can't wait to see what kind of crazy rankings Josh has in store for us this episode.
I'm excited. I'm just gonna go with with what my heart tells me. My gut has led me to two championships, and you bums haven't even won one. So no, let's get into it. Everyone listen to me. Ignore these two because I'm that dude.
Yeah,
So
Josh thinks he doesn't have to go off consensus because he thinks he's just some fantasy football god now that he's gotten lucky twice in a row. So
Extremely lucky.
let's just say I've won some playoff games by like less than a point 2 years in a row.
Trust me, I know.
Like 0.1. You know what the craziest one was? Remember the Dolphins game with Ian Book at quarterback against
The Saints defense. Was it the Saints?
Yeah,
Saints defense is the reason I lost that season, and that's why
it was the
It was the Dolphins defense.
I had the Dolphins
Book.
defense when they put up like that insane game, and like they had Ian Book threw like a last second interception that got me like 2 points that won me by 0.3 or something crazy like that. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
So yes, I have had a little bit of luck, but my running backs are always accurate. Besides Jonathan Taylor last year, hence why he's so low.
Yeah, if you guys missed last episode, we did our running back 20 through 11 rankings. So definitely make sure to check that out after. Spoiler alert, Josh doesn't have Jonathan Taylor in his top 10. So
all right, well,
you guys want to get into our top 10?
Yeah, let's do it. Danny, you start us off again.
All right. My number 10 running back is the New England Patriots. Bell cow running back Rhamondre Stevenson, an absolute winner of the draft and the offseason in general. They didn't draft a running back and they just added James Robinson, and they're pretty much paying him monopoly money to be there. So I'm not worried about that. It's not even worth mentioning, like Shane said last episode. Rhamondre is a running back 7 last year after not even starting out the season as a starter. It's absurd. He's an incredible football player. He's an incredible receiver. He's built like a tank. He's going to be reliable and not too injury prone for you. And I see the Patriots offense taking a big step up with Bill O'Brien coming in as offensive coordinator. And I think that's something that Josh kind of underestimated a little bit last episode, is he kind of counted out the Patriots offense. But I really do see the Patriots taking a little bit of a step up on offense. And yeah, I'm liking the Patriots outlook, and I love Rhamondre. I think he could be a league winner this year for sure.
Yeah, no, he's a good dude. I had him ranked very low. It's a gut feeling. I don't love the Patriots offense, but yeah, Bill O'Brien should help out that run game. But yeah, he's an exciting player, and yeah, like his yards after contact and everything were phenomenal. And he's kind of a jack of all trades too. So they'd be crazy not to use him like they did last year. So I am excited. We talked about him a lot last episode, because I had him so low. But I'm excited. I think he's a great football player, and I think he's going to do good this year too. I just don't think top 10.
I kind of feel like me having Rhamondre at 12 is a bit crazy. I feel like that's really low. I feel like he's a lock at top 10 with the guys like Tom Montgomery and James Robinson as his backups.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And they lost Damian Harris, and he was the running back 7 last year. So he's being drafted as the ADP running back 10 right now. So like it's exactly where he's being drafted, and I can't see him going any lower than that. Really, I only see him rising up boards in the
For
process.
sure.
Yeah, he's a stud. He is a stud. All right. My number 10 is going to be Mr. Nicholas Chubb.
Ooh, whoa, that's low.
Wow, this guy.
He is such a stud. I absolutely love Nick Chubb. And obviously he's gonna benefit a lot if obviously Kareem Hunt should be gone. It's gonna be interesting to see where he goes. But I mean, Nick Chubb, 1,500 yards last year, 12 touchdowns. He doesn't bring a lot of PPR value. But he's an absolute stud. I mean, in my personal opinion, I think he's the best true running back in the entire NFL. But for fantasy, he's up and down. He was what did he finish last year? He was one of the top ones. I know
RB6, I believe.
I think he was RB1 through 6 or 8 weeks. He kind of slowed down a little bit the back half of the year.
Yeah, no, he had to slow down at the end, but yeah, I know like the first like 3 weeks or
He finishes the
6 weeks,
RB6.
yeah, absolute stud. I love Nick Chubb. I think I like his situation even more than last year. But there's just some guys in my top 10 that I just am more excited about, and you'll see here who I have. But Nick Chubb, he is one of my favorite players. I think he's the best running back in the NFL if I'm just going off of talent. I wouldn't choose another running back to give the rock to because he is amazing. That dude is just a freaking force to be tackled. I mean, he's just so thick, so strong. But yeah, RB10 for me in fantasy this year.
All the points you've given make it sound like you have him so much higher than RB10. I don't understand.
There's just a lot of guys I like in the top 10, and you'll see.
He's the number 6 running back in PPR and underdog right now, his ADP. So that's surprisingly low for sure.
What was his how many receptions did he have last year?
He
Receiving-
he had one receiving touchdown. I don't know. I didn't look at his
One receiving touchdowns more than Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley combined last year, to be fair. So that's not bad.
Yeah, so his receptions over the last 3 seasons, 27 catches, 20 catches, 16 catches. So I mean, he's not much of a PPR guy.
But he's such just a bell cow on the ground. That doesn't matter.
And you got to take into consideration Kareem Hunt and Dearness Johnson are both gone. Both of those backup.
Yeah, so he should improve. But there's just other guys I'm higher on.
His backup is a 5th round rookie. That's his backup right now, Jerome Ford.
He's a stud.
We'll talk more positively about Chubb later. Let's hear your number 10, Shane.
My number 10. Now I feel like this guy always starts off lower in draft boards going into seasons these last couple of years. But then he always outperforms it, and that is Derrick Henry. I have Derrick Henry at 10. This season he has the 4th easiest running back schedule. I didn't realize that until I was obviously looking at some of his stuff. But he's 29 years old. That is, for running backs, that's old. That is so old. That's the same as Austin Eckler. That's old. But with last year, just over 23 touches a game. I mean, that is crazy. If you're RB1, I don't know where he's being drafted right now. Maybe you get him as RB2. But if your RB1 is getting 23 plus touches a game, that is such a beautiful sight to see.
Oh yeah, Derrick Henry is just phenomenal. I think it's kind of funny. I mean, it's kind of been interesting with Derrick Henry because I mean, he is so amazing and just like so different than any other running back in the NFL. And it kind of felt like he had a down season last year, but the dude had 1,500 yards and 13 touchdowns. It feels like he's coming off of a down season. That was a down season for him. I mean, and Derrick Henry is low-key slept on in the passing game. When he gets screens and everything, he almost like house calls, I swear, like half of them.
Last year, it seemed like last year they started using him more in the passing game for sure.
Yeah. I have him a little higher than you, but I love Derrick Henry. I'm ultra excited. I think he's an RB1. I honestly do. I know he's getting up there in age. He's kind of in the twilight years of his career, but I have him a little higher, and I do think he's still RB1. I mean, he's still averaging like 4.5 yards a carry, 350 touches. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, he's gonna get volume in that offense because he is that offense.
Yeah, you might be a little too low on him, Shane. He was the RB4 last year. He was electric, and like Josh was kind of saying, it's hard to think about history when talking about Derrick Henry because he's just such an outlier and such a physical freak of nature that you can't really just predict a downward trajectory for the guy. I understand it's his age 30 season. It's not ideal. There is some question marks with the Titans, but I think the Titans can be a decent team this year. I think they could surprise some people because everyone's just counting them off, but they have a fine team. They still have Derrick Henry there, and the guy's a juggernaut. The man's a juggernaut. He's gonna surprise people naturally because he's just such a freak, and I have him as my number 9 running back. I will say, I think it's great value. If you can get Derrick Henry in this area, it's such a steal.
It is.
I have him low, and then you have him at one spot ahead of me.
Okay, a little low.
Feels low. I mean, he had 350 rushing attempts and 41 targets. Give me all that, dude. He's touching the ball. He is that offense, and they're going to rely around him. Even if Will Levis starts, whatever, he's going to be the juggernaut of that offense. Like Dan said, you have to revolve your offense around Derrick Henry because he's a Hall of Fame running back, and the dude is just so good still. I mean, it honestly felt like he had a down season last year. But yeah, Danny said he finishes RB4, 1,500 yards, 13 touchdowns. I love Derrick Henry. I think he's a true RB1, and I'll still draft him as that. So don't be thinking you're gonna give him as an RB2, Shane.
Yeah, like Shane was saying, it feels like we're lower on him, but I mean, this is where he's being drafted. He's the RB9 ADP right now in PPR, and I mean, it's if you can get him around 8 or 9, take him because the upside's limitless. You've seen it with Derrick Henry every year. If he's healthy, he's gonna be a top running back every year.
Dan, can you look where's Derrick Henry going right now? His ADP in best ball. Because
On best ball,
yeah, I mean that is the best kind of translate we can, the best ADP we can get to translate into redraft for right now this time of year because
he's the RB7 in best ball.
okay, RB7. I mean, you sprinkle in some wide receivers, Travis Kelce in there. He's probably going to that's probably second round. Depending on your pick, you could have him as your RB2. If you have the 10th, 11th pick, you could get him the first pick of the second round.
Best ball is a league you'd want him in because that potential is all you need, and Derrick Henry has the most potential of any running back when you're thinking about just strictly points every week. He can get up to 40 every week, any week. He's a freak.
100%. All right. Well, my number 9 is going to be Mr. Najee Harris.
Okay.
So we talked about him a lot in the last episode. I'm a big fan of Najee Harris this year. I'll kind of touch base on what I said last episode, but I mean, he's coming into an improved Steelers offensive line who drafted Broderick Jones, added. I mean, they had some nice pieces to that offense with Darnell Washington too. So I mean, I'm excited to see them run to that right side. The chemistry is already going to be there between those two. And Najee Harris, he ended. What were we talking about? It was like he ended as like RB4 through like the last like few weeks or something. I don't know. It's pretty hot. He had
week 10 and on. He was the RB5.
Yeah, so he ended strong. I mean, it felt like a down season. People are very disappointed in Najee Harris, but I mean, he still had 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. And then, I mean, previously to the year before him, and he was the focal point of that offense. I mean, he had 94 targets to where he almost cut that in half to 53 last year. But I think we're going to see that go up again, and I think they're gonna really focus that offense around Najee Harris because they're better when they do that. So I'm high on him. I think he's an RB1 this year, and I'm super excited. I'm super excited to see this Steelers offense. Super young, a lot of talent.
I like that you have him up here because he's such good value this year. Everyone needs to steal him. If he's really going to be drafted around round 4, everyone has to steal the guy. I like that you have him in your top 10 to kind of point out that he's being drafted way too late and he can pay off and be a top 10 running back easily.
He's going to move up draft boards, unfortunately. But if he were to stick around the 3rd to 4th round range, you could have him if you go RB. Having Najee Harris as your 3rd running back would be that's a league winner. That is a league winning team right there. If you have Najee Harris as your RB3,
I'd be happy to have him as RB static to have him as RB2 next year.
Oh yeah,
yes. I mean RB3 would just be insane.
Your number 9.
My number 9. We talked about him a lot in the last episode, but I have Travis Etienne at 9. A fully healthy Travis Etienne with that backfield of, I mean, they added Tank Bigsby, which is, I mean, it's something. I think he was a 3rd round pick, so it's something, but it's not. It's not a Jahmyr Gibbs. It's obviously not a Bijan. And they have the 12th best offensive line in the league. That's a good line behind. He's behind. He's got a great young quarterback throwing to him too. He's a good receiving back. He had 45 targets last year, caught 35 of them for just over 300 receiving yards. That just like sprinkles in some more value on top of his 1,125 rushing yards, and 5 touchdowns is a little disappointing, but he also had a very weird year last year. Where he wasn't the guy the first few weeks, then he was, and then he was hurt, and then he was all over the place last year. But if coming into the season fully healthy, I mean, Travis Etienne's not going to be top 10.
Yeah,
me and Josh both mentioned it last episode. We don't like Etienne. We're both lower on him. I'll let you talk about him, Josh.
We can hold on. We can make some sort of bet. If Travis Etienne doesn't finish as a top 10 PPR running back, we'll make some sort of bet. I'm that confident
You're off the podcast. You're off the podcast.
You're off the podcast forever. You don't get another episode.
Okay, we'll check back in January and see.
And if he is top 10, we're both off. It's your podcast.
Let's go.
You take ownership. Yeah, me and Danny talked a lot about him. Danny had him in his top 20. He didn't even make my top 20 for me. I'm surprised Shane has him at 9. Yeah, he didn't make my top 20.
Oh yeah, that.
He's a roller coaster. It's not that I don't think he's a good player, but I mean, he was a roller coaster last year, and I just don't love him. I don't love his value.
Oh.
I don't know. And I honestly think Tanks Bigsby is going to have a bigger role than we think. I think they don't invest in a running back, in the top 3 rounds unless they plan to give him serious touches. And Tanks Bigsby is a big guy. He's a goal line dude. I think they'll feature him a lot, but I mean, I see the upside with ETN. I totally get it. I understand. I mean, even in his roller coaster season, like you said, he's still 1,000-yard rusher, which is very impressive. And I think he'll improve too because he had a lot of drops. But I don't know. I don't want him. I don't want to touch him on my team. I don't want to draft him. That's just how I feel.
How's that Chargers third round running back pick doing from last year?
Just watch. He was the youngest player in the draft last year. Just watch. He's going to be a stud.
No, you also forget that the Jaguars brought in Snoop Connor last year too, and it seems like they like him. But yeah, I think ETN will be better this year. It's just where he's being drafted. That's the thing that turns me off is I can't touch him there around RB 10 to 12. I can't draft him there. I don't think.
Yeah, it feels like a steal to me.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. The PPR upside, he's a great receiving back, and he has a connection with the Trevors dating back to college. So I understand your thinking.
Maybe I guess you could say he's more boom or bust. But I see the boom. I see the boom in him.
Yeah, I get it. He better be on your team this year.
I hope he is. I really hope he is.
All right, you guys want to get into my number 8?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right, we're starting to get into these elite running backs now, and that's Nick Chubb out of the Cleveland Browns. I might be a little low on him, but I mean, he's not the flashiest guy, and the guys ahead of him just have simply higher upside. But Nick Chubb just put up the quietest 1,500 rushing yard season of all time, and he was a winner of the draft. They didn't bring any rookies and rookie running backs in, and he's just a super reliable option. And Nick Chubb's always a good running back. Like Josh said, he's one of the best pound for pound, just strictly running backs in the NFL. I love him. I believe the Browns offense takes a pretty big step up this year, personally.
Wait, is Jerome Ford not a rookie?
Jerome Ford was a rookie last year out of Cincinnati. He was a 5th round pick. He's not that good.
Yeah, so I like Nick Chubb a lot. You guys both have him.
Yeah, I have him at 10. I have him low. I'm a guy when I start getting into my top 5 and everything. I love the receiving upside. I love the easy catches, and that's it's not a running back ranking. This is not who I think are the best running backs, but it's just all depending on I'm a little higher on the guys that catch 50 plus passes a year, where I don't see that upside with Nick Chubb.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I have a feeling you guys will both have Chubb around this range. I don't think you guys will have him too much higher than me.
I think he'll be definitely a lock for a 1st round pick in our drafts.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, I'll get into my number 8, who is Mr. Breece Hall. I'm higher on him than than most people, but I'm going off of what I saw last year before that injury, and the dude was amazing. He was awesome. I mean, he was the soul, the soul of that offense, and he was carrying them. I mean, I think it was like 5.8 yards per carry, which is just awesome. You love to see that. I mean, he's getting red zone production, and I think he's just got better upside with Aaron Rodgers too. I mean, Aaron Rodgers threw to Aaron Jones a lot, and I think Breece Hall is going to be a beneficiary of that. I think they'll have a lot of good screens and stuff dialed up for him. So I see Breece Hall as the league winner this year. I want him on my team. I want all the Breece Hall stock. And I think just because of that injury, he's going to get slept on too much. And I'm perfectly happy taking him back into the 1st round. And we only got a small sample size, but in that small sample size, I mean, he was awesome. He still ran for about 500 yards, 5 touchdowns, and then still was targeted 31 times. So I like that. I like that in that small sample size.
Breece Hall will be mine. Okay. My number 8 guy.
We'll see. You're going ETN before Breece Hall.
Yeah. My number 8 guy, I feel like I may start a commotion here, but my number 8 guy is Mr. Bijan Robinson.
What?
Wow.
Yeah,
no way.
So
This guy off the podcast right now.
Yeah,
okay,
what-
shut
what's
up,
your problem,
John.
man?
John
Yeah.
didn't say that. Okay, so
What do you hate? Generational talents?
yeah, okay, sure, yes, he's a generation. I'm not doubting him necessarily, but his rookie year, I don't know, it just feels like it's hard to put him even in the top five just as a rookie. He's still on a not great offense. He's with an unproven quarterback. Obviously, he's going to be their guy. It's
You're nuts.
clear,
Yeah.
but he still has three good running backs behind him that they're not going to use. And they are a running team. He's gonna have to take breaks, take rests. Maybe they overwork him, he gets hurt. You never know. He's gonna be their workhorse guy. I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes higher than RB8, but I don't want to bet on him this year. I'd rather wait it out and see. I don't know. I know it's not.
Think
So
about
what you're
think about
saying-
Saquon Barkley's rookie season and just think about a better prospect.
Think
Better
about Clyde
team.
Edwards
on a
alone.
team that made Tyler Algier like RB6 in running back efficiency. Just think about that.
Yeah, so
I
what
know.
you're saying is you're just not going to take Bijan in any league?
I mean,
Please
if he's
don't. Please
there,
don't.
if
Please
he's there,
Well,
He's
if
not-
he's there, because he's being drafted as the player 2 right now in all of fantasy. He's going second overall in ADP, so obviously he won't be
Oh.
there. So you're just not going to take Bijan ever.
oh yeah, no, I'm not touching Bijan then.
And I get what your reasoning about how them having 3 running backs like Algier and Patterson. Arthur Smith is just gonna have so much fun with Bijan. Bijan just Arthur Smith's dream player, and I just think that it's
100%.
just a match made in heaven.
Wait.
I think Bijan's gonna go crazy.
You said his ADP right now is the 102.
Yeah,
I'd take him one, bro. I would take Bijan
You would
Robinson. I'm
take
gonna say
him
that
over
right now. I will
CMC.
take him first overall. I don't care.
CMC, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Cooper Cup, Austin Eckler. You would take him over all those guys.
not
Bijan
CMC.
Rob-
Everyone but CMC.
I would take him over CMC. I would.
That's more crazy than
Bijan Robinson is the best wide receiver on his team too. So just take that in consideration.
Hmm.
He is blue chip, best prospect
I mean,
of a running
considering-
back we've ever seen. He's LaDainian Tomlinson, and he's going into the perfect offense. I mean, literally, like Danny said, Arthur Smith, match made in heaven. They're gonna run the hell out of the ball, and they're gonna screen it to him.
I know they are.
And
Yeah.
John's gonna touch the ball 25 times a game, and he's that dude. I'm just gonna tell you that right now.
He's such a talented back. We'll talk more about him later because me and Josh are gonna have him
Yeah.
a lot later. So let's just talk about him more positively later. But yeah, he's such a talented back. I understand you not wanting shares in him for how high he's being drafted and for him
I
being a
get- I
rookie.
get that.
Understand it.
Yeah, I mean, he is unproven. He hasn't played in the NFL yet, so we haven't seen that. But I mean, go watch his college tape. Cut
No,
the
you-
tape. I think you'll see something else.
All right. Into my number 7 running back. So my number 9 and 8 running backs, Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb, are in their own tier, and then I have 7 and 6 in their own tier as well. So keep that in mind. My number 7 is pretty close to my number 6, but my number 7, Saquon Barkley, New York Giants running back.
Wow.
A little more inconsistent than my number 6. I gotta say, a little less safe, and I
I feel like
want
you're
my-
low on Saquon. I feel like you're
I'm-
low.
Yeah.
I think I'm low on Saquon because I like my number 6 guy a lot better, and I think he's safer. And I'll talk about him in a little bit. But the Giants brought in a lot more weapons than they had last year, and last year they were pretty much just relying on Saquon every play to do everything, pass to him, run to him, everything. They have a lot more weapons this year, including someone like Darren Waller, who's a real star. So I think that Saquon's production might go down a little bit, and he was inconsistent last year. He wasn't even that fantastic last year. Like I have him at 7 and he finishes the RB6 last year. I just feel like there's a little bit of a drop off and he's going to be overdrafted.
Yeah, I get it. The Giants' offensive line has always kind of been a problem for Saquon. I mean, put Saquon into Bijan's situation, he'd be RB1 every single year. But yeah, I get that. I get that you being a little lower on him. He is a little inconsistent. He does have the injury history, but man, when Saquon is right, he is just amazing. And I think, he's one of the best receiving running backs in the NFL. So I got him a little bit higher than you.
I have him much higher than that.
Let's just say Shane's got him top 2.
Not quite. Not quite. Not quite.
But yeah, I love Saquon. I think he's worth to be a little bit higher, but I get the inconsistencies. And like the Giants' offensive line is kind of off. I don't know. He just doesn't do well behind that offensive line. I think when they get him involved in the pass game, he's a stud. But
John Michael Schmitz could help a lot because their interior is what's
Yes.
been holding him back for sure. So hopefully that helps. But
That's true. But yeah, I love Saquon. But with that, I'll get into my number 7, who is Mr. Derrick Henry. And like Danny said, he thought Nick Chubb had one of the most quiet 1,500-yard seasons. I think Derrick Henry did. People kind of expect Derrick Henry to be a 2,000-yard guy every season, which he almost is, because he is just. I mean, if you want a guy that you can bet on getting 25 plus touches a game, which is ridiculous. I mean, Derrick Henry, there's some games where he was getting like 40 plus carries, which is scary, but that's just points. As long as he stays healthy, he's going to be, I think, easily a lock top 10 running back. I wouldn't even be surprised if he's top 5. Kind of sleeping. I feel like we're a little bit sleeping on Derrick Henry just because of the generational talent he is. And we forget, for a guy who's 6'3", 250 pounds, he's a receiving threat, and he gets a lot of targets. I mean, so give me Derrick Henry where he's being drafted. His ADP is fantastic for me.
It is. The ADP is makes it a little more worth it for sure.
Yeah, still, and I'll never fault someone for taking Derrick Henry high, never. So,
my number 7 guy, we've talked about him a lot. I have him one spot ahead of Danny. That's Nick Chubb. Not much else to say than what we've already said. I mean, he averaged just over 5 yards a rush. That is, I want to say it was almost first in the league. He was up there.
well, he's been averaging over 5 yards a rush since he's been in the NFL. He's just a freak.
Been born.
Yeah.
He's been averaging
Don't
5
get
yards a rush
tackled.
since Little League. Yeah.
He's got to have the strongest lower body in like NFL history. I mean, I think he squats like, what is a squat? You got to look that up, because I swear it's like it's like 800 or something. Like, I mean, he's like squatting like a baby elephant, dude. It's ridiculous. It's just scary. I mean, I would not want to be a defensive player trying to tackle Nick Chubb, especially those poor corners when he gets free to the outside, bro. Those legs are knocking you 5 feet out.
I feel like this is just a complete personal feeling. I feel like the fact he doesn't wear gloves and he's just so old school, it just makes him that much more of a dog. You know, he just runs through anyone. That's just an unnecessary feeling I have.
He's definitely got that old school running mentality. He doesn't care about anything else, for sure.
So he squatted 675 pounds.
That's absurd. He's not human.
That is ridiculous. I think he did it more than once too in the same rep. It's just gross.
Yeah, he's absurd. He's a freak. Shouldn't be playing running back. He should be a linebacker. But my number 6 running back is Josh Jacobs. I mentioned I have him in the same tier as Saquon, but I will be taking him over Saquon. Josh Jacobs was just incredible last year, and I mean, with his current ADP being so low, I don't understand it at all. I feel like he was the RB3 last year, and Saquon was like the RB6 or 7, and Saquon's being drafted way earlier. I feel like Josh Jacobs is more of a focal point on his offense. Neither Jacobs or Saquon had a receiving touchdown last year, so like, and they had pretty much the same amount of catches. Jacobs is more consistent and safe to me. I don't understand why Saquon's going so much earlier than him, so I'm taking Josh Jacobs after Saquon in every league I can. I understand. I know the reason is because people are used to taking Josh Jacobs in the 6th round, and last year it was the steal of the draft, but that's just not realistic anymore. And he was literally like the best running back in the NFL last year. He looked the part. Like, every play was a first down. The guy, as a Broncos fan, playing against the Raiders was one of the most frustrating things of the whole season, because Josh Jacobs is just so frustrating to play against. He gets a first down every time he touches the ball, and his contact balance is legendary.
Oh yeah, I have nightmares about Josh Jacobs in the Week 17 game 2 years ago.
Oh yeah,
my gosh, all the Chargers, dude. He did it. All they needed to do was just hold him to a tie, and Josh Jacobs just doesn't get tackled and breaks 4 tackles, and the Chargers just are known for not tackling, so it's just a match made in heaven for the Raiders. And nightmares. But you can put Josh Jacobs in for 6 for me, because that's exactly where I have him, Dan. But yeah, Josh Jacobs was the leading rusher last year, and he ran for 1,653 yards, 12 touchdowns, 5 yards a carry, and was second in carries with 340. And yeah, it is kind of ridiculous. I mean, Josh Jacobs should probably actually be higher on our boards. We kind of forget about him, and I honestly think too with Jimmy Garoppolo, I think he'll be targeted more in the pass game. So I think his value is going to go up, and he's on a 1-year franchise deal, so he's got to play hard again to earn another contract. So yeah, Josh Jacobs is an absolute stud. He probably, I mean, yeah, like you're saying, Dan, he was probably the best running back in the NFL last year. and he looks the part. He's young still too. I mean, Josh Jacobs been in the NFL for a little while, but he's only 25 years old, so he's just right hitting his prime. And he's on a 1-year franchise tag, and when guys are on that final year of their contract, they play hard because they want the money. So, yeah, at 6, it almost feels too low for Josh Jacobs now that we talk about it. But yeah, I think he's a stud. I'd love to have him on my team.
Yeah, I'll be talking about Josh Jacobs a little bit later.
Awesome. Yeah, he's being drafted as running back 8 and 9.
That's a
in
steal.
Underdog
for you,
and
Shane,
ESPN. So
That's a steal. That's a steal.
Absolute steal. Go steal him in all your drafts for sure.
Okay, my number 6 guy is Tony Pollard.
Okay.
He proved last season he can be an RB1 in a totally split backfield. Now he's completely 100% by himself. This is probably I feel like 6 is like the floor for him to finish, honestly. By himself, I'm so excited to see what he can do. He's on such a good offense. He's gonna be exciting.
I'll talk about Tony Pollard because I love Tony Pollard. I have him higher on this list. Dude was incredible. I mean, I am a little scared because they lost Kellen Moore, and I feel like Kellen Moore is such a creative guru and just schemed him up so perfectly. So that's the only part that just like scares me a little bit. But Tony Pollard, the player, as long as you get the ball in his hands, I mean, I swear that guy would break. I mean, he had to have like the most like 50+ yard touchdowns like ever. Like every time he touched the ball in open field, he was gone. He's 26 years old. In splitting carries with Zeke, he's still at 1,000 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns, 5.2 yards per carry, and he's a PPR threat, and he's going to be a bigger PPR threat this year because he's going to be on the field a lot more. So give me all the Tony Pollard stock. I'll talk about him a little bit more when I get to him, but I love him.
Yeah, the running back 8 last year, and he didn't even start as a starter, or he wasn't the starter really for more than like 5 weeks because of Ezekiel Elliott. And I feel like it is a little bit of a trap. I feel like I could see us all be getting set up to just get excited for Pollard and take him early in all these early drafts, and then they sign Zeke or something like that because their current backup is Deuce Vaughn, which is just kind of comical. Like a 5'5" backup running back is interesting.
even if they sign Zeke back or anyone, I feel like that won't matter too much. Especially if it's Zeke, they've decided Tony Pollard's their guy. He's gonna be their guy. If it's Zeke, he's gonna fill in when he can. Maybe I'll hop in on the 1 yard line a couple times here and there, but it wouldn't be a 50-50 like it was last year.
Yep. And he is my number 5 running back. I have Tony Pollard coming in at 5. And like Josh was kind of saying, Kellen Moore leaving is scary because he is so creative in the passing game, especially with running backs coming out of the backfield. We'll talk about Eckler later, which is exciting. But man, Marty Schottenheimer and Mike McCarthy calling plays. I can't. That's just 2 goofballs calling plays. Like it's just unrealistic. It's so unserious to me. I can't believe it. It's so crazy. I'm going to be talking about it all season because it's gonna backfire on the Cowboys. But I still think Pollard is just such an electric player, and he proved it in his starts last year when he was the main guy. He is just such an electric football player. He'll break house calls more often than not if you just feed him, and the more you give him, the more he'll give you. And even if they do bring Zeke in, like you said, he'll be the main guy this year, and he's going to be there. You got to take him around the top 5.
Oh yeah, they're investing in Tony Pollard for sure, and he's gonna carry the ball a lot. But yeah, like you said, the fact that Mike McCarthy is still a coach in 2023 is just so unserious. It doesn't make any sense. That guy is such a goofball. You just like to see the Cowboys because the Cowboys have such a talented roster. Kellen Moore should have been their head coach a long time ago, and the fact that they you walk Kellen Moore. And then that comment that Mike McCarthy made, Kellen Moore just wanted to light up the scoreboard. I wanted to play the more slow game and let the defense take control and run the ball. I was like, what?
That's what held the Packers back for so long, but okay.
Yeah, so unserious. But my number 5 is going to be Mr. Saquon Barkley. I love Saquon Barkley. I do. He's just one of the most exciting, most talented players in the NFL. And like Dan said, with them getting John Michael Schmitz, that's going to be an absolute stud for them right in the middle of their line. That's going to help them substantially. And the more they feed Saquon, the better he's going to be. I want to see him just, get him involved in the pass game, line him up in the slot because he's so ultra productive. If you can get the ball in his hands in open space. But yeah, I mean, he still had 300 touches last year, 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns. He's averaging 4.4 yards per carry with an awful interior offensive line. So I do think he'll improve. They did get some more weapons on their offense, which I think like Darren Waller does help because it takes a little bit of the pressure off Saquon. So at 5, I feel perfectly safe. I love Saquon. He's a generational talent. It's just he's got to stay healthy, and the Giants got to scheme up some good calls to him.
All right, my number 5 guy. I've got Jonathan Taylor at 5. He, obviously it was a down year last year. He didn't play. I think he only played 10 games last year. So I think a fully healthy Jonathan Taylor is top 5. Top 5. 5 is his floor, I would say. I feel like that's safe. It's not crazy for him to go out and put out a season that he did 2 years ago when he was RB1. He adds value. I mean, and again, the receiving games could be different this year with Anthony Richardson at quarterback. But last year he had 40 targets in 10 games, which it's not nothing, and 4.5 yards per carry. So we know who Jonathan Taylor is. As long as he can stay healthy, he's going to be a great running back.
I'm just gonna add one thing and why I'm also so low on Jonathan Taylor. He was getting 80% in 2021 of their red zone touches. That is insane. You've never heard a stat like that. So he was touching the ball at an unrealistic amount in the red zone. And I mean, he almost did break I think he scored 25 touchdowns. But I mean, that red zone share was absolutely insane. So, I mean, with that reason, he was getting so many touchdowns, and the offense is completely flipped around and changed. But I do get the upside of Jonathan Taylor. He is an ultra good running back. Last year, I thought he was terrible. And I don't think there's any way he can repeat his 2021 season just because, I mean, the red zone share was just insane. Like, there's never been anyone getting that many touches. But yeah, I get that you have him so high, but I feel safer with him outside of the top 10, which is crazy.
So high. This is like the consensus of where he is for everyone else on this earth except you.
Yeah, I'll talk about my number 4 running back because that is Jonathan Taylor. Not quite as low as Josh's 12, RB12,
Right.
but I understand what Josh was saying, how Anthony Richardson coming in could hurt him a little bit because he's such a elite runner, but at the same time, the offense is going to be dramatically better. Just as a whole, bringing in Josh Downs and Anthony Richardson, I think Jonathan Taylor is going to be much improved. I can see him having a bounce back season and being good. I will say I'm not drafting him any higher than the 4. 4 is the absolute ceiling. I'll take him all off season. I don't even know if I would take him here. I would just take him if he fell to 5, probably. That's a more comfortable range, but I put him at 4 just because he's a lot safer than Pollard as of right now. And I don't mind the Colts' outlook. I think they're going to be actually pretty decent this year and scoring a lot more points than last year. And last year was a disaster. It's not going to be that bad.
I do love their head coach Shane Steichen. I think he's an offensive guru, so it'll be fun. It'll be fun to see what they do. I think you guys are too high. I'm going with my gut. Don't draft him first round. Don't do it. There's better running backs.
Stores, do you think? Do you firmly believe he won't finish in the top 10?
Yeah, I think he's got a better chance of finishing outside of the top 10 than he does in the top 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear your number 4 then.
My number 4 is going to be Mr. Tony Pollard, who is a better running back than Jonathan Taylor. he's Danny.
Tony Pollard, the guy that was a backup running back at Memphis. He was just a kick returner at Memphis, and he was a 5th round pick. That guy.
Yeah, that Tony Pollard right there.
Oh wow,
he is him. Tony Pollard is him, and you guys will see that this year. In a split backfield with Ezekiel Elliott, he still put up 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. There's no one. I mean, then that's just rushing. I mean, he still had. Let's see. I believe his receiving stats I have pulled up right here. He was targeted 55 times too. So with 371 yards and 3 touchdowns receiving. So I love it. His production can only go up. He's only going to get more touches. And like Danny said a little earlier, the more you give Tony Pollard, the more he's going to give you. So, I mean, you want the ball in his hands because he is a stud. And the Cowboys have an awesome offensive line. They always have. And their plan is to go in here and run it. And he will be the receiving back too. So I'm so excited for Tony Pollard. I'm higher than most people on him, but he is a stud and I want him on my team.
Yeah, I don't mind Pollard at 4. If you're going for the upside, he has more upside than Taylor. I just personally find myself taking the floor at these higher spots, or at least this range. I like Jonathan Taylor's floor a lot better than Pollard's upside, but it's pretty close. I have him 4 and 5. It's similar.
Josh, this was to I'm going to read you Jonathan Taylor's carries the last season, okay? 31, 21, 20, 22, 22, 20, 21, 16, and then he didn't play. Like, why would you not want a running back that's getting that many carries? That's proof that he's a great running back.
Because he was a bum with those carries, and he doesn't get targets. All carries. They don't throw the ball to him. They didn't throw the ball to him.
He doesn't need the ball thrown to him.
And then his production is based a lot off of touchdowns. I mean, he had 18 rushing touchdowns.
Okay, wait.
With that big of share. I just don't feel comfortable with him. I watched him every game last year that he played, and he was not a good running back. I mean, he would break some runs that helped his yards per carry. You know, I'm surprised he's at 4.5 yards per carry last year because it felt a lot worse than that. But yeah, no, I don't want Jonathan Taylor. I will not touch him in the first round. And I think
we need to make our first ever shirt, just a Jonathan Taylor shirt that says, I'm not touching that bum. Because that might be the best quote of all time. Josh.
The NFL Secrets podcast.
I'm not touching that bum.
Last year, 7 targets, 5 targets, 8 targets, 4 targets, 4, 3. Like, he gets targets too.
He's a bum.
Oh.
Trust.
All right. I guess we'll have to see where that ends up. That's going to be a big bet on this channel then.
There's just running backs that are better than him
there's about 4.
It's going to be a better, Shane Steichen was the creator of the freaking QB sneak at the 1 yard line. Yeah, they have the most athletic quarterback of all time now. So Jonathan Taylor, whatever touchdowns you would have got last year are going to be cut in half now with Mr. Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen.
All right. Let's say your number 4.
We're going to move on from this conversation. My number 4, it's Josh Jacobs. He was first last year. Had over 1,600 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns. He was just a stud. And you sprinkle in more value in the passing game since we are talking PPR. I mean, his passing game, he had 53 catches last year on 64 targets. He only dropped 9 balls, 64 targets and 400 receiving yards. I mean, that's a running back I want right there. If I can go Josh Jacobs, Travis Etienne, I'll be the happiest man alive.
Yeah. I love that you have him at 4, honestly. It's kind of making me want to put him at 4 on my list. I love Josh Jacobs so much. I probably will be taking him over Pollard and Taylor, to be honest, in my leagues. I love Josh Jacobs. By the time the season starts, they lost Waller. If he's really their number 2 option behind Devontae Adams in the offense, Jimmy G is still a reliable player. I love Josh Jacobs.
Jimmy G is still a really good quarterback. So
yeah, no, Josh Jacobs, I want all of his stock. Yeah, and by the time the season comes around, the more we've been talking about him, the higher I seem to be thinking. I was just thinking about him in my head. I'm like, he's a stud. I want him on my team. And there's no reason he can't repeat what he did last year, especially at 25. He's just hitting the prime. So I think Josh Jacobs is a lock top 5 player for sure this year.
Totally.
I'll get into my number 3 because I might start another war here, but I've got Austin Eckler at 3.
Disrespectful.
Okay, this is actually
back-to-back RB1. Consistency.
Yeah, I understand. There's some reason for concern though with the contract situation and the
receptions.
Tell him more.
No, right. I mean, he's a generational receiving back. He's such a good receiver out of the backfield. It's so good for fantasy. I remember last year, the beginning of the year, everyone was calling Austin Eckler like the bust of the draft for some reason, even though he was still like a top 3 running back all year. Like even when he was struggling, he was like top 3. So Austin Eckler is just dominant in fantasy. He's always going to be top 3 no matter what. He shows no signs of slowing down on the field. Kellen Moore is going to be feeding him out of the backfield like he did with Pollard. It's going to be creative and fun, that offense. I love Eckler, but like we talked about earlier with Bijan, I need my Bijan shares, and I love all these top three.
Bijan over Austin Eckler is absolutely insane to me. That is wild.
I agree. Yeah, Austin Eckler. Just to put it in perspective, he scored, I think it was 44 touchdowns the last 2 seasons. The next closest person is 15 touchdowns behind that. Just put that into perspective for a second.
I think he had 38 touchdowns. He had 18 this year. Didn't he have 20 the year before?
He had like 23 or 4 the year before, I believe. I can pull it up real quick.
Either way, 20 or 24, it was a ridiculous amount of touchdowns.
Yeah, I think he rushed for 18 and then he caught like 5. Gotcha. So it might be like, it's closer to like 41 touchdowns. So I mean, he's put, past 2 seasons he's averaging 20 touchdowns a season, and the Chargers aren't going to slow down from featuring him. Just go over something kind of. Let me go to his.
If you want, you can go over Eckler more positively when you're covering him. If you want.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, let's hear number 3. Then.
At your number 1.
My start of war, Christian McCaffrey.
Well, then we knew it was coming.
Oh, this is insanity to me. This is blowing my mind.
Christian McCaffrey. There's nothing I could say bad about Christian McCaffrey. It's just he's hurt almost every other year. So,
I hope
by the math, the Christian McCaffrey will only play 4 games this year, and I would rather go safer with Austin Eckler and Bijan Robinson.
How is Bijan safer? He hasn't played a snap in the NFL.
Trust me, he's safe.
Trust you.
Christian McCaffrey is like the most injury-prone running back ever. Christian McCaffrey. When's the last time Christian McCaffrey played 2 full healthy seasons?
He said, "Trust me."
Yeah, I just found another shirt.
Yeah, that's literally. We have 2
I'm not denying that Christian McCaffrey is the best running back and the best receiving running back ever. I'm not going to deny those facts, but I just injury. It's only injury.
Stop talking. How do you put Bijan Robinson over 2 of the most proven running backs in the NFL? How do you do that?
Because Bijan Robinson is generational.
Sure, okay, but like he's still a rookie who we haven't seen in the NFL.
He is big. He is strong. He is not injury prone. He was so productive. I mean, he made top tier college teams look silly, and he's playing at Texas.
He's not injury prone until he is injury prone.
He's a big guy. He's strong. I mean, there's just, and I'll talk about him more in here in a second. But Christian McCaffrey, the only reason I have him on my top 3 is just because of injury. That's it. I don't think he's ever played 2 full healthy seasons in a row. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he has. I think he averages over his career like 7 games a season, and I love him, but the injury scares me, and I don't want that when I can have 2 safer players, in my opinion.
I might have lost.
We'll talk about him later. What's your number 3?
My number 3 is Saquon Barkley. Like I was just saying with Christian McCaffrey and Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley is a proven running back in this league. What's been holding him back is injuries. He was healthier last season. So if he just stays healthy all season, I mean, he's on one of the better offenses in the league now. Dable's he's on a great offense. There's not much else to say about Saquon Barkley. I feel like last year he proved that he can be. I think he was RB1 through the first couple weeks of the season too. He can sustain RB1. I wouldn't be surprised if come January, Saquon Barkley is the fantasy football running back 1. If Bijan Robinson is a fantasy football RB1, I would be very surprised.
I probably wouldn't be surprised for either, to be honest. But I get what you mean. Saquon with Dable scheming up the offense. I understand the upside. I think it's a little too high for me personally, though.
Yeah, it's a little too high. There's better guys in the top 3. Sorry, Shane. But yeah, Saquon, I'm not hating the player. But Saquon's he's amazing. But yeah, I think there's a clear top 3, and it should all be the same no matter how you rank them. Okay, but I'm pretty sure what I'm reading is Christian McCaffrey's only averaged 7 games per season over his career. So
yeah, but last year, I mean, he was healthy all year last year, and he looked the part in San Fran. I think Kyle Shanahan's the smartest coach in the NFL. He'll utilize him well. Elijah Mitchell, get him late in your guys' leagues because he's probably going to get a decent amount of carries.
It was funny though. Elijah Mitchell looked like the better running back a lot when they were playing. When Elijah Mitchell was healthy before he got hurt, he was
Elijah Mitchell.
4 yards per carry than McCaffrey. So they are a running back by committee too. That you got to remember too, Shane.
No, they're not a running back by committee. They're can't overwork Christian McCaffrey, so they still have a really good backup running back that they're going to toss in when they.
Kyle Shanahan created the running back by committee.
It's Christian McCaffrey. They're not going to do a running back by committee.
No, I mean, no matter what, he's still going to be productive. I'd rather have him in a running back.
If you want to talk about running back by committee,
be healthier.
Bijan Robinson could be in a running back by committee. If you want to say Christian McCaffrey is in a running back by committee, then Bijan Robinson is in a running back by committee.
That's a good transition into my number 2 running back, who is Bijan Robinson, the freakiest running back prospect we have seen. Better than Saquon Barkley, in my opinion. I mean, Bijan Robinson, you feed him the ball, you get him 25 touches. How can that guy not reward you with a touchdown a game? How can he not? He's just, I want so many shares of Bijan in fantasy this year, and it's going to be hard because the hype's bigger than any player ever coming out of the draft, but I want to take a chance on him over any running back other than CMC. I'm high on CMC always. I love CMC. I'm taking Bijan over every other player in fantasy football this year. And I might take him over CMC by the time that the drafts start.
100%.
Please do.
Yeah. Would. By the time the draft starts and we start seeing these highlights, in training camp of Bijan Robinson catching one-handed passes, just the most amazing player you've ever seen. He has a good chance of going 1. And I'm in a toss-up right now because Bijan is my number 2, Dan, so you can put him right there. He is my number 2, but I'm in a toss-up right now because I'm like, then all depends on Austin Eckler, like I think you were trying to say earlier before we cut you off. His contract situation. Who knows if Austin Eckler's even going to show up to rookie to mini camp, and we'll see. He still might not even be on the Chargers next year. He might do a holdout, so that'll affect everything here in the next coming months. So we'll have to wait that one out and see. But yeah, Bijan Robinson, generational blue chip. There's just nothing that I'm scared about with Bijan Robinson. He's going to go to an offense where he's going to be the focal point. He's going to, like Dan said, he's going to get 25 touches a game. They have to give him that. And he's going to score 1 time a game. And he's one of the best receivers on the team. He's an amazing receiver that can run a full route tree, line him up in the slot. He can run a route tree, and he's a mismatch, if they put a linebacker or whatever on him, he's going to run right past him out of the backfield. So he's just too good of a player to not have in your top 2. Sorry, Shane.
Think about how Arthur Smith used Derrick Henry in those prime Titans days. I mean, Derrick Henry broke fantasy football, and Arthur Smith will do the copy and paste, same exact thing with Bijan that he did with Derrick Henry, but probably even more.
He'll probably get more targets in the passing game because he's a better receiver. So
yeah, definitely more targets.
I'm not anti Bijan Robinson. Let me get that out there. I'm not anti Bijan Robinson. It's hard for me to put him. So I know the draft capital is there, the talent is there. It's just so for fantasy football purposes, it's so hard for me to put him above these proven guys that are in these really good situations. That's my reasoning.
Let's get into your number 2.
He's a proven college running back. That's all you need to know.
My number 2, I mean, it's Austin Eckler. Like Stores is saying, MVP. He's at like 41 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons. He's a fantasy football machine, and he himself personally loves fantasy football. He's out there trying to perform for all his fantasy football managers. Yeah, I don't know. There's not much else to say about Austin Eckler.
Yeah, set it and forget it, baby. He is him. He is him every year. Austin Eckler is the safest player. He is.
How can you not love Austin Eckler? He's from a small school like Western Colorado, undrafted. I mean, he's just shouldn't be here. He shouldn't be talked about like this, but he's just such a good and productive running back. Every time he touches the ball, he just defies the odds every time. And we'll have to see and wait on that contract situation. That's the one thing kind of TBD on Josh's number 1 running back is the contract situation could significantly change these rankings. So I'll get into my number 1, and that's Christian McCaffrey. We've talked about him a lot, just absolutely electric last year with the Niners. When he came in, he just fit like a glove in that offense. And I feel like he bounces off and complements Kittle. And Ayuk and Debo really well, and I love that offense. And I think if Purdy's starting, then that's just even better for CMC because Purdy is probably the best quarterback in that offense for CMC's success. As you saw last year when CMC just exploded when Purdy came onto the scenes, and he's still only 26, which is pretty surprising. Star-studded offense, and I just think it will help CMC if anything with all that talent. And I mean, you saw last year. How can you not get excited?
You can just put CMC at my number one. I mean, all I'll add about him is every fantasy and every football offseason, it's pretty much CMC is the consensus number one guy. And he is now on the best offense he's ever been on in his entire life.
Yeah, he is. I mean, Christian McCaffrey is just amazing. He hit the Triple Crown in his second game as a 49er. In his first game, I think he scored 2 with only practicing for a half a week. Ultra smart player, just a good dude. You know, he's in the right offense for him, you know, where he's not going to get 25 touches a game and hopefully not get hurt. That's the only reason I have it is just because he is an injury prone guy. He seems to tear an Achilles, tears ACL, just get hurt constantly. But as he stays healthy, he really is the best running back in the NFL overall. You know, he does everything at an elite level, catch the ball, run the ball. He's just a different kind of athlete. But with my number one, you know, I pivot back to Austin Eckler because he's just consistent. And that is what I love. You know, you don't have to really worry about injuries. He may miss one game a year. But I mean, he scores touchdowns. All Austin Eckler knows how to do is score touchdowns and catch 10 passes a game. The Chargers love to feature him. He's their dude. He's been their dude. And there's no reason it's going to change with Kellen Moore. I just think it'll improve. But yeah, just all depending on contract situation for me.
Yeah, and I mean, like Austin Eckler you said he's been the running back one the last 2 years, right? So it's not crazy to have him here if you think he can just be the same. Because he's crazy consistent and he's always on the field, you know. So I get that. And if he's on the field with that Chargers offense, he's gonna be right up there. No one has better upside than him and CMC to get be the number one running back.
They don't have a guy that's going to threaten to steal his job. I mean, they didn't draft a guy in the draft. I think they clearly think that they'll figure out the contract situation. And I think Austin Eckler even said in an interview, he said, well, worst case scenario, I go play out my contract and he's going to play hard because he's going to want to get a bigger contract next year. You know, he's got one last shot for a contract. He is under contract, you know, he's obligated to play. So we'll see. Hopefully he doesn't go Melvin Gordon.
A healthy Justin Herbert is just that much better for Austin Eckler. So
true. And they just throw the ball to Austin Eckler. I mean, he's had 90 plus receptions in each. I think he was over 116, given the Chargers had Mike Williams and Keenan Allen now almost every game last year, one of them. So I mean, Austin Eckler was the beneficiary of that. So I could see, you know, regression coming, but there's just no way he's not a top 3 running back by the time fantasy season's over if he's healthy.
Yeah, that Chargers offense is going to be fun, and it's going to be really fun to see how much these rankings change by the time our final rankings come around in August, I believe. And
yes, sir.
These rankings are interesting, man. I feel like me and Shane are in pretty good agreement, somewhat all the way down the board, all the way down to 20, and then Josh kind of just did his own thing and went off the Josh ADP.
You know, I think my own way. You know.
Yeah, I respect it. I mean, I like all the rankings. I liked how some of the people Josh had higher, some of the people we had lower. You know, I like all of it, and yeah, I feel like if we combined our rankings, it would be a pretty good list.
It would be a very good list. I agree.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that was a blast. I can't even imagine how we're gonna somehow do 20 receivers. It's gonna be crazy in our next coming episode. So.
We should do 30 receivers.
We might have to. It was hard. It was only hard to do 20 running backs. So
definitely stay tuned at the NFL Seekers podcast on all platforms for our upcoming receiver and tight end rankings to finish out our fantasy rankings. Then we'll be coming out with final rankings later in the year and just a lot of more fantasy football and NFL deep dive content coming soon. So check us out. Thanks for tuning in. You guys have a good one.
Yes, sir.